After one long wait, I have never been so happy to see demons in my life. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Fantasia. Welcome to Fun Together TV. Today we're going to be talking about His Dark Materials Season 2, the first 2 episodes together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. His Dark Materials airs primarily, first and foremost, in the UK because it is a UK made and produced show, and we get it here in North America a little wee bit later. That's why I had to get caught up, which is why today we are talking about 2 episodes instead of just 1. That's right, Season 2's first 2 outings here. We have the City of Magpies, and then we have the Cave. And man, The Subtle Knife is my favorite book in this trilogy for a good reason, because it gets exciting all up in here. Alright, first and foremost, the City of Magpies, it's that beautiful floating city in the sky that Lord Asriel showed to Lyra during the last season, and he's like, I'm gonna take us there. And he took us there, and now Lyra is here in the city in the sky, but so is Will Perry, who we've been catching snippets of all throughout Season 1, which I still think is one of the best and smartest changes they made to the books. Remember, in them books, we don't see Will Perry till this point in the story, so it's so nice to be able to know his deal before we get here. So the two of them meet up in this city and they're all like, what's going on? I have no idea. Here's an omelet. And then they go looking for food and water and they bump into Lyanna Mormont of all people, and she's like, hey, there's specters here. You gotta be careful. And Lyra's like, where's all the adults? And Lyanna's like, the specters got them, dum-dum. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And at the center of this mysterious city is a giant tower that gives Will a very odd feeling when he comes near it, and he has a vision of, among other things, a knife. A subtle knife, if you will. Yeah, obviously this tower is going to be important moving forward, but let me just say, first and foremost, this city, which in the book is called Cittàgazze, or I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's got this big, long Italian name. It looks exactly like I pictured. The way the streets have that, European, narrow, limestone feel to it. There's all these alleys and layers with stairs going up and down and all around. It just looks so cool right out of the book. They ripped it out of the pages of Philip Pullman's book. Chef kiss. Awesome. I love the city in the sky. That's not all that's going down, though. The action cuts over to the witches who are planning to wage war on the Magisterium because they know the Magisterium is a bunch of bad dudes. And the witches are just a bunch of ladies who are just trying to, I don't know what they do in their spare time when they're not doing wars, but they seem like nice people. I bet they sit around, they have a pizza, they do some needlepoint, they swap ghost stories around the campfire. I think the witches are neat. You know who else thinks the witches are neat? Lee Scoresby. We finally got a taste of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Even though it was a small taste, I just feels like I've missed him so much. I feel like the wait between seasons 1 and 2 have just been like, give me more Lin-Manuel. And here he is. He's with the witches now, and they have given him a quest. They have tasked him to find someone called Stanislaus Grumman. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything for those of you who don't know where the story is going, but Stanislaus Grumman, he's not just some random person. He is somebody very important, and his story with Lee Scoresby finding him is going to tie in very directly to what Lyra and Will are doing. That's all I'm going to say about that for now. But oh wait, a witch is in our submarine and she killed a bunch of folks. What other show lets me say a witch is in our submarine? What other show? You don't get that kind of clarity in Ozark. Anyway, one of the people this witch attacked and fatally wounded was the Cardinal, the big granddaddy who's in charge of the Magisterium, Sturek or something like that. He's got a weird name. He's just like this big old dude with a bug on his chest, and he's like, oh, I'm dying now. Now, this is where things get interesting, because Mrs. Coulter and Father MacPhail are watching this transpire, and they kind of look at each other, and Father MacPhail's like, I can help him if I go get some medicine. And Mrs. Coulter's like, if you go get some medicine. Because you see, it's all about power, kids. That's all the Magisterium cares about. And when Sturek does not get the medicine he requires and passes away, who's in charge? Why, it's Father MacPhail, the guy who could have gone to get medicine but didn't. And now, as we slide into episode 2, The Cave, Father MacPhail is the new head of the Magisterium. I hope his name is Father MacPhail. I hope I haven't been calling him by the wrong name this whole time. There are a lot of fathers on this show, none of them decent. It is Father MacPhail, I just looked it up. And the guy who plays him is the father of the girl who plays Lyra. How about that? Nepotism. Anyway, the first order of business for Big Bad McPhail, now that he's in a position of power and he wants to remind everybody around him that that power is powerful, he decides, we are going to war with the witches. Plain and simple. They are heretics. Only the authority can know the things the witches claim to know. Blasphemers. Let's bomb their woods. And they bomb their woods, and it's a very sort of Na'vi moment. The witches just stand there and they watch as their territories are bombed into oblivion. All the trees are going up in flames. It's horrendous stuff. I feel really bad for the witches. I hate seeing trees getting burned. So I can't wait for Serafina Pekkala and the other witches to band together and just smash some fools, because that's something that the books sort of alluded to happening, but we never really got a sense of it because we maintain focus on the kids. But what's beautiful about this show is we can kind of stray that focus every once in a while like they've been doing. I think in the books, Father McPhail has like a grand total of 1.5 scenes, so they're already taking beautiful little liberties like that. Now, Will wants to go see that his mother is okay, and Lyra is kind of tempted by the idea of seeing a world that's kind of like hers, but not hers. So Will takes her into his world, aka our world, a world of cars and smartphones and Jersey Shore. And they're walking around Oxford, and she's like, well, this is kind of like my Oxford, but it doesn't have my Oxford, and she's a little bit bummed out by that. But then the alethiometer tells her to find a physicist, and eventually she comes across said physicist, and it is Mary Malone. And Mary Malone, guys, is so important to the story. I would argue she is the third main character, especially when it comes to book 3. You got Lyra, you got Will, and you got Mary Malone. That's how book 3 rolls. Now, if you're one of those people who just saw the Golden Compass movie where Ian McKellen played the polar bear, the one that came out in like 2004 or something like that, if that was your only exposure to this whole story for your entire life, and now you're starting this series, you know how that movie ended on a cliffhanger that never got resolved, and you're like, what the hell is this world? What's going on? I'll never know the answers. This is baffling. You know that feeling you got after walking out of the Golden Compass movie? Well, this conversation with Mary Malone is finally what you've been waiting for. It ties up the loose ends of what is dust, how does it work, what's going on here. Basically, any question you ever have that revolves around what's the deal with his dark materials, for the most part, it's answered in this scene. Dust, that stuff that the people in Lyra's world just can't stop talking about, is what we refer to as dark matter, the particles between spaces, the unknown microscopic little areas that, we just can't explain yet. And Mary's the physicist who's studying dark matter, and she's got it hooked up to a computer that she calls the Cave, in an homage to Plato's The Cave allegory. And she says, hey, I found out that when people are in this sort of trance-like state and they kind of, just think with their emotions and without having impatience or whatever, the dark matter responds to it visually on this screen. And it does this little funky little dance. So she hooks Lyra up to this computer, and the dark matter responds not with a dance, but with a full-on Tchaikovsky ballet. And that's when Mary is blown away, and she's like, who are you? What is this little girl doing? This is the greatest scientific breakthrough ever, period. And now Mary's going to be on her own journey to find out what the hell dust is, and she is going to see worlds within worlds of her own. But that's a story for another time. I love this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole book trilogy, and so far it's been one of my favorite, if not my favorite scene in the HBO show, because Lyra getting that answer and conversely giving the answer in kind to Mary Malone gives us the answer, because Dust up until this point has been baffling, and his Dark Materials is known for being a series that, even though it's geared towards younger readers, is incredibly complicated and very hard to interpret. You've got fantasy, you've got this steampunk war going on with witches and demons, you've got all kinds of religious allegory and allusions to John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost, and it's all scrunched together into this one all-you-can-eat buffet of admittedly awesome storytelling. But by the end of it, you put down book 3 and you're like, what did I just read? It was entertaining, but And the show had the opportunity to clarify these things a bit, and so far they're doing a good job, because as far as I can remember, this scene with Mary Malone does an even better job of explaining dark matter and the particles in dust and how they're all one than the book did. So I'm hoping that any lingering threads of doubt that I might have about the plot of his Dark Materials, particularly some of the really super religious stuff we get with Azrael and the Authority in book 3, I'm hoping the show will do an even better job of clarifying it than Philip Pullman did. And if that's the case, then baby, have we ever got a good adaptation on our hands. And speaking of Lord Asriel, we haven't seen him yet, but we end episode 2 with Mrs. Coulter finding out that Asriel was all ready and willing to separate Lyra from her demon just so he could open a portal to another world. And she does not like that idea at all. So there you have it, our first 2 episodes of Season 2 of His Dark Materials. Lyra and Will are on a quest to discover more about Dust, and if there's time, find the letters written by Will's father, because apparently there's some stuff they don't know about Will's father yet. Mrs. Coulter is on a never-ending quest to find Lord Asriel, find Lyra, and find the alethiometer, and Lee Scoresby and Hester are on a quest now to find this Stanislaus Grumman person and bring him back to the witches, so that the witches and the Magisterium can have their smackdown. Great couple of episodes setting up what I'm sure to be is an action-packed season. That has been His Dark Materials, Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2, The City of Magpies and the Cave. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will see you here next time, and until then, adios.